Welcome back, everyone, to the Culture Base Podcast. I'm your co-host, Dustin Pede. With us, as always, Blake Bear. What up, Blake?
Hello.
We just spent the last 10 minutes with the red light on. When a whole bunch of nonsense. There was loogies involved. There was foot massagers.
Yep, that was happening.
My wife laughed in the background. It's
That was
all
great.
good. We are pumped to talk to you today about who you hire is who you become. We've talked about our culture-based process and system of clarify, identify, and amplify. And so today we're going to kind of hit that identify portion of who you hire is who you become. But before we do, I want to let you know that we're here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop a scalable team to get there. You can subscribe on all audio podcast platforms and on YouTube. At the Culture Base. Also follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn at the Culture Base if you want to know more about what we're doing week to week and you want to be a part of that, or you're interested in talking to us about how we can make the culture of your company more amazing, you can go to theculturebase.com. We recently wrapped up. We are pre-recording this before our first think tank, just full transparency, but this releases on August 1st, which is after our first think tank. So I got to say, that was incredible.
It was an excellent think tank. Oh gosh.
Excellent.
Socks
Excellent.
off.
I started with socks and shoes on. And by the end of it, no socks.
Man.
No socks. I was just gonna keep it on the feet.
No socks.
No socks whatsoever. Yeah, we're excited about those think tanks. They're going to be on the last Thursday of every month at 2 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a Zoom call. So if you're interested in joining us for any of those, we're just going to kick around some ideas about how to make your teams thrive and how to make your culture better in your workplace, and hear from you some ideas and just share some ideas on how we can do that better together. If you're more interested in that, you can go to theculturebase.com/think tank and sign up there, and we'll send you a Zoom link every month when we get going on those. So
say something about that actually.
Please
thing,
say
I'm
something.
just gonna hop in, just jump right in.
Don't even, just interrupt.
Water's fine. So anyway, if you've never done a think tank, I do want to challenge you. Like there are think tanks for everything. And you're probably like, oh, I don't want to be a part of that. They're just some kind of webinar. This is not webinar style. This is like, let's dig in. Let's talk about best practices. And if you've never done that because, I don't know, maybe you're afraid of sharing stuff or whatever, I don't know. But I'll tell you that I love going to those, even on something that I feel like a authority in, because I don't know everything. And I love going and talking. I've just been lying.
This is our last episode.
Yeah, this is it. Thanks for watching the Culture Base podcast. But anyway, like we legitimately, when I go and sit in those rooms and I hear people's best practices, I have never walked away from a think tank or some type of group where, especially when they're different industries that I'm in, I've never walked away without something. And I don't even have to try very hard to be like, oh, what's my thing I'm taking away? I sit there for 10 minutes and I'm like, damn, that's good. I need that in my arsenal. And I haven't even thought about that being an avenue of something I need to look at. And so if you're like, I don't know if I really want to be a part of something like that, the reality is you just don't know it. And so you don't have to, but you're missing out. Okay. And like Dustin said, we actually haven't recorded our first one or done any of our first think tank, but I'm that sure because I have always been blown away by them. And that's what I've got to say about that.
Thanks, Forrest.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, great speech. If you want to join us, you can, for those, again, culturebase.com. If you can click on the think tank link on that website and we'll get right into it. You know what? We're gonna have a lively conversation today about who you hire is who you become. And when I was typing this out, my Grammarly kept telling me it's whom you hire, but I didn't want to sound like that person. So it's who you hire is who you become.
Maybe we should talk about that for 20 minutes. Like, what is it? Is it who?
What is the difference between who and whom?
Like, this is an office episode here.
I I feel like we need a guest on to really break down the who
Yeah.
whom analysis for us. But yeah, let's just talk a minute about it. Why and if it's true that who you hire is who you become. What do you think, Blake? You kind
No,
of shook up
I
the
kinda
you
wanna
shook up the
challenge
jar.
yeah, I kinda wanna challenge that thought anyway, like, is that 100% true that who you hire is who you become? And so I personally wanna hear from you first on this, on why you think that it's 100% true.
I love the Enneagram 8 going, no, 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 you go ahead with your cute little opinion, and then I'll come in afterwards and tell you all the reasons you're wrong. That's fantastic. I mean, look, until 5 minutes ago, I thought it was 100% true. And then Blake's like, it's only 90% true. So, all right, well, I'm eager to hear how I'm 10% wrong. But uh, I think the people that you hire is the DNA of your company, and they're the living. We talked about brand a little bit in last
Mhm.
week's episode.
Yeah.
That I think the people that you hire, or if you're in a nonprofit volunteer situation, the people that you're saying, yeah, come volunteer with us, they are walking billboards for your vision. They are vision carriers. They are the doers. They are the ones that are out on the floor, if you will, making it happen, spinning those dance moves, right? I said on the floor, so I felt like we needed to talk about dancing. Anyway,
Yeah.
I feel like they're the ones that no matter how badly you sit in your leadership office or your boardroom huddle and you wish that things would be at the end of the day, it's the people, it's not you that has to carry out the things that make your company look the way that you want it to look. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
What I'm saying? And we can't make anyone do anything. We can only inspire them, right? Great leaders inspire us.
Mm.
And so I believe that if you have someone on your team that just at their core goes against everything that you believe in, then you're going to have a lot of friction and tension there, and you're ultimately going to end up becoming, or at least a part of you is the company is going to end up becoming what that person reflects. Now, if it's one person and you have 12,000 people that work for you, probably not. But if you have an 8 to 10 person team and one of them is misaligned, then yeah, I think who you hire is who you become.
Yeah. No, that's good. So I guess where the 10%
Yes.
lies.
Now I get to get them.
Let me tell you why you're wrong, fella. So
Yes.
the no, I think you're in fact, my 90% went up to 95% because I do that was
Ooh,
such a well said.
5%.
You just knocked 5% off. You're getting the deal.
That's what I do. I give discounts.
That's right. So when I think about this, I do think that who you hire is 95% of it. I think the other side of this is um, who you keep is the other
Hmm.
side of it. And I
Ooh,
think that is
okay, I see what you did there.
mhm. So maybe another episode here, honestly,
Yeah, you
who you
threw a
keep.
little trick
Um,
question there for me.
exactly. So I think that even though they do partner real like side by side, I think that we don't go through the hiring process with the people we have in our company
Hmm,
again. And the thing is we keep getting better. We keep becoming sharper at who we're looking for, the right type of person who fits the work. And then we don't really go back through and evaluate where we stand on those people. So I think that has a lot to do with the culture too, and
hmm.
in who you become, and
Yeah.
especially at a leadership position. So I totally agree. I think that we live in a corporate side that just believes that whatever they say, we want our company to look like this, that it's just going to happen that way. And that's crazy. Like
Yeah.
that's
Doesn't
not
happen.
no. And I'm all for psycho-cybernetics, like the idea of visualization and believing that something's going to happen. I really am. I think there's a ton of power there. But
One
there's
more
a
time,
point
break down what cybernetics means.
psycho-cybernetics. It's
Cyber psychonetics.
well, that sounds like a
That's
different thing altogether. Psycho-cybernetics, at a high level is just almost perceiving that, like, when my mind is set on the thing is going to be this way, like, it breaks through a lot of neuro pathways of, like, "Hey, I believe," um oh, geez, I don't have a good example here, but, like, what I think in my mindset on stuff, it's breaking down mindsets to get somewhere. So it's like, you ever hear people say like, "I'm gonna try to do that. I'll try to get that done." Like the
Mm.
idea, it's almost very Yoda like
Yeah,
do or
there's
do
no
not,
try.
there is no try, because it's like
Mhm.
I either shut a door or I don't shut a door. There's no middle ground there of I'm
Right.
trying to. So it's the act of breaking through those kind of thought processes. And
I
so
gotcha.
I'm about that. It's like really, hey, we will have the best team. And it's having that mindset going into every hiring event or whatever you do. But there is a certain point that that doesn't happen, because even though I can do that for me, I can't force anyone to do anything. I can't force people to be a certain way. And so
Yep.
I can do what I can do on the hiring and making sure that we find the right people. People don't change overnight, and like that's like I think of it like this, and I don't think I've used this example yet. And if I have, well, I'm going to say it again. And that's like there is an ideal culture, there's an ideal way that your team, like think of it like a path. There is a path that is like, this is the path of said team. Some people are really close to that path, and they're like 10 feet off the path. And as you're
They're
walking, you're
easy
like,
to
hey,
onboard. They're just like,
exactly.
"Hey,
Hey, that
scoot over
person,
into my lane." Just
exactly. That person fits us. Hey, where you guys going? Oh, we're going to destination. And that person's like, I'd like to go there too. And you're like, hop on. And then there are other people who are a
shout out
mile and a half
destination, great
away.
vacation spot.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but there are
Book your
people who are a
stay at
mile
destination
away
style.
who just don't fit whatever the path is. And
Yeah,
you can get them there, but they're probably not going to be happy. And so I
yeah.
think that's why what we're doing is trying to see who fits on this path, not in a
Mhm,
personality style, not in some kind of um like inclusion type of thing where you're trying to keep certain people out. Never that. But
mhm.
like people who fit your culture, people who fit your values. And we harped on that a lot in the last episode. But I just think, yes, it is 95% true that who you bring on is who you become, because long term, it is not about the one person at the top who thinks this is what we should look like, unless that is conveyed through the DNA going down through the company. And that's where I think the other 5% is in the people who are part of your leadership organization. Are you constantly making sure that they're right and that they're in
Yeah,
the right position and that they're still cultural fits? Because I've seen people go from being a culture fit to not being a culture fit. And because we checked them once, that was enough. And that's not true.
yeah. So to sum up your point, you're saying that we're just phrasing it wrong. It's not necessarily that who you hire is who you become, but it's who you keep is who you become. Yeah, I think that's definitely closer to that's the 100% truth rather than 95% truth. It's what I was thinking of when you first said that is the analogy of someone who tries a new food for the first time. I'm a foodie and I love to try new food,
I love
and so you try new food for the first time, and they're like, "I'm not going to tell you what it is, just eat it," and I go. Okay, and so
red flag.
you take a bite of it, as you're chewing it, you're like, something's off here. And they're like, yeah, this is Rocky Mountain oysters. And you're just like, okay.
You're like, ugh,
And you spit it out. So it's the keeping, right? If it's the food that I want to keep, it all goes into that experience of going in that right direction to heading to your destination dream vacation.
yeah. Well,
Um,
and that's so true in the fact that like and I want to keep reiterating this every time we're talking about this. Your hiring is not at their signature on an offer letter. That is
ooh,
not your hiring. Your
say
hiring
it
is
again.
90 your hiring is not when they put a signature on the offer letter. It's
There you go.
90 days before and it's 90 days after, and I think the after actually continues to grow past 90 days. But as far as knowing like this statement of is it true that who you hire is who you become, that part is the 180 days of, and they're smack dab in the middle. So
Mhm.
the other side of it is who you keep is post, right? It's a lot
Yeah.
longer on the backside.
Yeah, and so we're just redefining hiring, right? It's
Yes,
not the one-time dotted line, it's a 180-day path.
that's right.
So we've talked a lot about the different type of person. What is the type of person that's best to have on your team? Everybody's business is different, everybody's culture is different, everybody's
Yeah.
values and vision and ambitions, they're all different. What type of person is best to have on the team? Like, let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, really good question. There's this is a question that I chew on a ton because I think you almost got to think like categorically about this and not just
Mhm.
like, oh, what's the right like personality? No, not that. I think you got to look at three areas. I think you got to look at the culture, you got to look at the work, and you got to look at the position. So culture, we've talked about a bunch. In fact, I think last episode probably hits it even better. But like, what are the values that like line up? What are the things that are like, if this person even shows a hint of this, it's a negative. We're not even going to
Mhm.
get
It's
into
an
that.
automatic no.
Yeah, these things are automatic no's. Having that in your hiring process is really important.
Mhm.
Having yellow flags and red flags in your hiring process is important when it comes to your culture, so that when you come together with everyone who's been involved in your hiring at the end and you talk about this person from a holistic perspective, from different perspectives, you're going to get a better feel for do they fit the culture. And that's where, even in, Traction does this really well with, and we dig in a lot deeper on our how we identify whether someone is a good fit for our culture or not. We as the culture base, but Traction does a really good job of seeing if someone's a culture fit by putting your core values and doing a thing called the people analyzer,
Mhm.
where as you're going through, you're looking at like, here's our core value of we, not me.
Mhm.
So are they a plus? Are they a plus minus? Are they a minus? And you go through those things as you're going through the whole process, and everyone's kind of grading that person. That's a great way to do it. And then you kind of average it at the end and see like, hey, what is our bare minimum line that we just say like, if you join our team, it's got to be that you're a plus in this, you're a plus minus in this. We'll allow a minus in this because it's not our most important core value, but some of our most important core values, we never allow a minus on.
Yeah.
Like they're just a hard no. And so it's kind of going through and evaluating that on the culture.
Yeah, so the culture, the work, the position. I just want to keep
Um,
repeating that same three again because
exactly.
I think it's important for us to remember. So that's the culture piece. What
Yep.
about the work?
Yeah. So that's where do they fit the type of work cognitively? And I think we've talked about this already, but it's important. The ancient Hebrew word for work is also worship, and that word avod. And when you think about that, it's again not that we worship our work, but that when we're doing the thing that we're like, man, I was just made to do this type of work. And I don't mean the thing, because I think some people get into like they miss. They're like, oh, I need to be a singer and up on stage with Lady Gaga, and you're like, whoa, okay, well, let's rewind. Could you still find that satisfaction by going and being a singer to kids at schools and like
Mm,
really affecting their lives and helping them with music? And I think that's where we misalign sometimes, because we're trying to get to the thing or the what, and we don't realize it's really the why that we need to connect to in our work. And so I think a
yeah,
lot of people just don't know because nobody's ever talked to them about that or think through what kind of work would I like. And so
yeah,
going through and, I'm an electrician. We hire electricians. I'm looking for people who will connect with a certain cognitive shape almost, right? Like they're
right.
really mechanically minded and they have good spatial visualization. And it sounds weird to be like, well, why does that matter? Because anybody can learn electrical. You're right. I really do think anyone can learn electrical with given enough time and effort. The
Yeah,
question is,
Blake taught me some, and that was impossible.
but really, at the end of the day, what is the time and effort you want to put in? That's what we're asking here. And
Yeah.
will the time and the effort that they have to put in exhaust them to a point where they don't enjoy it?
Mm,
I think there's an element of work that we
yeah.
got to think about to making sure we're fitting that right there.
Yeah. What I think of when I think about this one of culture, the work, and the business, when we get to the work, I feel like does the work give you life or does it suck it out of you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do you leave the thing, the job site, the project, the task meeting, whatever? Do you leave that and you're just like, oh, I can't wait to get to do it?
Mm.
Get to, right?
Yeah,
There's a difference between that get to and have to, right? And
absolutely.
so if they're entering into the type of work of I have to, it's probably they don't have that connection with the work. But if it's I get to, I'm not saying listen specifically for those words because people don't necessarily always think that way, but that's the underlying tone, right?
Yeah,
Is that the tone is that I get to do the work or I have to do the work. So the
yeah.
culture of the work, what about the position?
Well, even real quick before I jump into that, I think it's really good that you are looking for little catches like that when people talk about work.
Yeah.
How do they view work? And
Yeah.
I I'm not a big like this some of you are going to be like, I say that all the time. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to downplay this statement when people are like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Like, I'm not actually a big fan of that because I
Yeah.
love the idea of work because we're creating, we're developing, we're bringing value to other people's stuff. Like, work is so good. We have maligned what work is. And I think that's what we look for is how do people think about work and where are they at on the path of that thought? Like again, the path is maybe what do people think about work? How far are they off to what they need to be to work at your organization or your
Yeah.
team and be on that team? Because
Yeah.
I think if people didn't love the work, I mean that's the difference between professionals and amateurs here
Mm.
is the professionals love the practice. They love the work. They love everything it takes to put in there, you know? So I think
Yeah.
that's where we've got to look for the right people who value what work is, period. So sorry,
Yeah.
go
No,
ahead.
you're fine. I want to say one more thing about that too. As you were talking, I was reminded that most great leaders or creators or innovators or entrepreneurs or whatever, they love the process more than the outcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was thinking about that while you were saying, like, if you uh, look at like Nick Saban, one of the most like successful college coaches in the history of the game, right? As soon as they win that inevitable championship game, right, that everyone hates, he's like, and they're like, "What are you going to do to celebrate?" He's like, "Well, tomorrow I'm back on the recruiting trail."
Yeah.
Because he loves the work. He
Yeah.
loves the
Exactly.
process. The win is just the bonus. It's just the icing on the cake. But
Yep.
for him, it's the work that he loves, and he can't wait to get back
Yep.
to it.
Yep. Wasn't it Brett Favre who, when he won the championship,
Favre,
Favre,
yeah,
wasn't he the one who goes, "Is that it?" Like after he got it, he goes, "That's it." Like, but I love that. That's like
yeah,
that's it. Like, that's not even as good as everything else has been. Like, what a summation
right,
that the
right.
pinnacle actually wasn't as good as everything else. And so
It's the
that
journey,
that's what I think, we're talking about the right person. I think they've got to hit what your belief is on what the work
right?
is. And not necessarily my belief or Dustin's belief. It's your belief. What do you believe about work? And then the last thing is the position. So at this level, like what do they need to know? And at what level do they need to know it? Because
Mhm.
putting someone in a position, especially when you're not just hiring in at entry level, you're hiring at all levels and you're looking for the right people at all levels. I think they've got to fit what the position is that you need. Otherwise, you might have someone who fits the culture and fits the work, and you're going to get rid of them too quick, or you at
Yeah,
least have to have an understanding of where they are at their level. Everyone oversells themselves in an interview. That's
hmm,
okay. It's better than underselling yourself. Okay. So if someone's overselling themselves, just make whatever you think they're at, give it about 70%, right? Like they're probably only 70% where you need them to be. And that's okay if you're okay with that. If you need someone operating at 100% of that position that you're hiring in, first off, that's not going to happen. That's not realistic. You're going to maybe lose people who are a great fit because you're not able to see that their full knowledge because you hoped it was at a different level. So I think you got to work through that, and then I think you really need to flesh out every position that you're going to hire from for what experience they need to have. Like really determine like what is the bar like on project managing, what level of task organization percentage wise in your head do they actually need to
mm,
have right now? And what can be
yeah,
developed? Because if you're looking
yeah,
for a cookie cutter that is already fitting your organization at the right positions, you will not find it.
Yeah, it's one of the things a coach of mine is telling me right now, an entrepreneurial coach of mine is telling me right now. He said, when you're thinking about, clients to go after, this is extremely behind the curtain, and some people are going to cringe at it because I did the first time. But he said, when you're thinking about, what clients to pitch to, your services to, and your whatever you're selling to, he said, ask yourself the question every week or every day if you have to. Ask yourself the question, who has my money?
Mm,
He's like, because the money's out there.
yeah.
So who has it? So I think in the same way, you ask yourself here on the position, you ask yourself who has the skill,
Mm,
who has the who's the right person. You
yeah.
start asking yourself those things. Then you go out and you find the person. It's not necessarily like blind dating, right?
Mm,
Where you're just gonna just willy nilly interview any old person that shows interest. But it's the type of person that you're looking for. If you know that ahead of time, we talked about clarity in the last episode. If you're so clear on your vision and your culture that you know exactly the person, the exact profile that you're looking for, then you can go out and find that person.
mm. Man, that's good.
Yeah, so I think that the work, the culture, the work, and the position is really the bulk of this episode. And we had some other questions in here, but I really think that they are for another day because there's some great content in here, and I want to save those for different. But I do want to end with one step that we can take in the right direction today. So we talked about culture, the work, and the position. How can we start making our way towards that today?
Yeah. I think personally, you've got to get creative here. You got to get creative in your approach because if everyone is like, and this is another reason to like pitch the idea of the think tanks, is because not every idea of how we go about something or how we go after the right people and find the right people. And to Dustin's point, we were talking about like what characteristics does someone need to have? That's an episode. Where do we find these people? That's another episode we're going to have. However, I will say getting creative and not thinking like this is one of those mindsets you got to get rid of. And that is that all people are the same. They are not.
Mm,
And all people in your organization are the same. Absolutely not. The people who are in your organization at the entry level, at the managerial level, at whatever else, middle management, top man, it doesn't matter. They're different and they're thinking different. And looking for those people, you got to think different. You got to think, how do I attract these people in the right way? And I do want to share, I love the story of how Google attracted
yeah.
their people. They just were like, they've done this and targeted certain people where they put up a billboard that had a whole bunch of code on it and it didn't make any sense to anybody else driving by. It had like, I don't even remember. And plus, I won't even know what it is, but it's like insert this coefficient of this, blah, blah, blah.com. And you're like, no, I'm not even gonna, I just look at that and I'm driving by. But they had such success instead of trying to vet people who actually had the work and the position level, they went and got creative, which basically took whoever could solve that thing,
Yeah, they were
took them
speaking
to a
code to
website.
coders.
Yep, they're speaking code to coders. It took them to a website to apply, and it asked them a whole bunch of other questions. And so now people who actually wanted to be there, it hit the culture too. And so they
Yeah.
got creative about how they went and got the right people because, yeah, birds of a feather flock together. And it doesn't mean you just target one flock, but you get
Did you just come up
creative.
with that?
That's me. That's Blake Bear dash Wayne
That's deep.
Gretzky.
That's deep.
No, but I think that's where when you look at that and you know the position you're going after, getting creative about the way you look for those people is really like that's where you got to have different strategies for different positions. And you're
Yeah.
thinking through like what platforms do they frequent? What mediums do they engage with? Are they on the news? Are they all about newspaper? Are they, I mean, maybe. Are they on social media? What social media are they on? Where do they hang out on a Friday night? What does their commute look like? Because that's how what medium do I engage with them on? How are they attracted? Like the whole story of Google there. So I think when you can think through those things and get creative, you're going to go about it in the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have?
Yeah, I think I'm such a visual person when it comes to taking next steps, and I think one of my favorite books of all time, Creativity Inc.,
Mm,
Ed Catmull, and that book really kind of taught me that storyboarding is more than just for movies or plays or theatricals or acting, and that you can storyboard experiences, you can storyboard anything of how, like we actually were just working on a product earlier this week for the culture base, something that we're excited to roll out to y'all soon. And we had a phone call and we storyboarded the product, right?
mm,
And so there's benefit into visualizing,
yeah.
what it is that you're after. It's why highly successful people, like, hey, before I die, or one of my goals in life is to own a Lamborghini. Well, they have Lamborghini posters in their office so that they know what the goal is. It's always in front of them. They're always
Mm,
going after it. So if you can storyboard this thing, a phrase you'll hear me say a lot that I stole from Brene Brown, is paint done. And if you can storyboard this thing, if you can paint done the person that you're looking for, then who
mm,
you hire will
that's
be
good.
who you become.
Man,
So that's
that's
what I
good.
think.
That's good. Um, I, one last thought here,
Yeah.
because I would be really amiss if I didn't say this, and that is the people you're looking for to become who you become as an organization, as a company, as a team. If you don't have strategy behind each of those, yikes, yikes. It
Hmm.
just like everything else in business, you put strategy to it. Why is this the area that we don't put a lot of strategy? Why is who we hire again, we had the episode on HR and not be in the right place because there is a ridiculous amount of creative strategy that should go into every position that you hire.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that, that's step 1. Step
Hmm.
1 is who are we looking for? Have we like you want to know who you need to hire? Who's your favorite person
Hmm.
in that position? Okay, what do they look like? What are the things that they hold really true? How do they think
Yeah.
about a thing? Like start reverse engineering how you're going to hire for that position. But if you
Hmm.
think and just throw to a headhunter, I'm just looking for this kind of person, you're missing it. Okay, that's not
Yeah.
strategy. That's
No,
giving your
it's
strategy.
gambling.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like there's a reason the professional teams don't outsource their management.
Ooh,
They don't. They don't do it. It is their responsibility to have the heart of the strategy. And
yeah.
so that's why we never want the culture base to be a thing that we're going to come in and outsource all your stuff. Absolutely not. We're going to help you so that you don't have to do the arduous things in it and help you lead the strategy. But that strategy's got to come right from the heart of the visionary. And if the
Yep.
visionary isn't coming up with strategy for these things because they think it's going to take too much work, it is. We'll help you with the work side, but don't give your strategy away to someone who doesn't understand it.
That's right. That's right. That's powerful. That's a great point to end on too. I want to let everybody know that if they're interested in talking or working with us on anything that we've talked about in this episode, we'd love to talk to you. So you can go to theculturebase.com, several buttons all over the place. Just click let's talk and let's have a conversation. Let's talk and let's see how we can help you, how we can come together and make your company one that people want to work at, and make sure that who you're hiring is who you're becoming, and you're becoming the company that you want to become. So
Yeah.
I want to just remind everybody of our think tank sessions last Thursday of each month at 2 p.m. Eastern, theculturebase.com/think tank to sign up for those, just to get a notification of and the Zoom link and all those types of things. Highly beneficial. Cannot wait for our next one later this month. I want to tell you before we leave that our next episode is going to be on taking your team to the next level. Cannot wait to talk about and how we amplify your business through the culture based system. So, we're going to talk about that then. Can't wait to be with you. Happy August, everybody. Hope it's a good month for you. We'll talk to you next week on the Culture Based Podcast.